We are building a model railroad from scratch until we have a dream model railroad system. And by now I have to say I really like what I'm seeing. I also have some plaster on my shirt. We plastered a lot and used different sorts of plaster. Doing that, we could try out different manufacturers. All the products worked well, and since they take a long time before they set, you can work on them relatively long and model them. All the plaster had different colors, as you can see here. We did not use any kind of paint for that. That is just the own color of the plaster. That's a brown plaster, and here we used an ochre plaster. For this area we used some sort of granite plaster, and with it we were able to model the structure of the rock already. Different materials to get the goal. The plaster has set now and we can plan the next steps. Next topic is painting. We have different products from different manufacturers for this. Here I have green paint. There's also a terrain structure paste. Since the plaster has color of its own, we might not need too much of this color. But to be honest, I slouched a bit. I applied plaster just where I thought I need some so the colors might not always fit. This gray spot here, I might want to have a flower meadow. And by now you can get an idea what could look good where. Over there I want a meadow, and there will be a road. And there will be an embankment. If you want to have a meadow with grass fibers somewhere, it makes sense to paint the green spot. So best to plan the priming accordingly. So let me take this green paint, mix it, and then I will start to paint this area green. I will show you this in the other camera. So this area should be green. So we apply a green primer now. And of course I cannot open the bucket. It's dried up from the last time. Now you have something to smile about. That's the way it is with live broadcasts. Always make sure your paint doesn't dry up. I pick up this green paint with a bristle brush and start applying the color here. The color covers very nicely. I can now dab the color on the side. The more paint you use, the better is the opacity. That way I create this green undercoating. And here you can see that the plaster has not set completely. It crumbles a little bit. You have to be careful there. Here I can paint over this brown area. So you can paint over areas if you don't like the color. We can do the same with the tunnel portals down there. When the color starts to dry a little, you can start pushing in the paint into the plaster. That way you can paint every last corner. And also you can create some structure and not just a shiny surface. Especially here with the brown colored plaster. When you push in the green paint, the result looks good. We can continue now with the next color. I will finish the last spots. That's an exercise of patience now. You have to paint all over the system. That will take some time until I have finished that. And I want to make sure that we don't leave any white spots. Now I will use this ochre paint. Mix it first for even distribution. Well, looking good. Best if you take out a small amount instead of using the dirty brush. I will let it dry a little bit and then I can push it in and paint everything. Like a summer meadow. The more different colors you use, the more realistic the result will look. You can be creative there. And you could combine a brown color as well. But this yellow color is already looking very good. I will use some more of the yellow paint here. I will let the brush dry a little bit. You see, that's almost too much here. It's too ochre. That doesn't look good anymore. I will use some green paint. It is best to portion a little amount of paint on such a board. Then you can mix that up on the board. That way it won't get too green or too yellow. And now you can see when I get the paint very wet, the result will be very shiny. I rather want the dry paint than I can push in the paint. That's where I want the meadow to end. Just a little bit of green here and some there. In this area I want my grass to grow. And right here I will start working with the terrain structure paste. That will change the appearance of this ochre ground. That looks like a meadow. I can paint the spot green as well. I will use more paint here. That's a good spot for a tree. So depending on how much time you want to invest in the painting work, you can do that for hours and days. If you do it like I do, you can finish that rather fast. but the result will be shinier and it lacks depth. I prefer working with almost dry paint. Think about what you want to place in the different areas, and then you can decide if you want to use my method or if you want to take your time. Alright, this structure is looking good so far. I can also apply some paint here on top. That way my brush is empty before I pick up the next color. I will let the brush get dry and apply the green paint all over, and here at the side, always depending on where I want my green color. I can also apply some on my mountain. That will be moss. The layers of paint can be of different thicknesses. It doesn't have to be consistent. I closed the two paint containers now. I wanted to show this as an example. Now you can imagine what that will look like when the whole system is painted. And you can use different kinds of paint. That is acrylic paint, and that's a structure paste. It has a thicker consistency, it has a dark brown color, but when it's dry, it would go great there on top. You have to mix them first too. We don't want that color to be shiny, but you can see right away that this is a paste with much more structure. I pick some up with a brush and I'm brushing this on here and let it get dry on purpose. And now I can dab the brush on here. That creates a very nice structure on this surface. The dabbing with the almost dry brush gives a great result. I can also work on the transition parts, like here we get a transition to the grass. I can also make that path look dirtier. Let's say the tractor drove down here a couple of times. That's how it got dirty. Some sort of simulated road. And that's looking very realistic. The paint is too thick here. We will spread it a bit more. We use the dry brush and dab some more. I open the door and then there's even more dirt. I hope you can see that in the camera. And that's looking very good. We already have a lot of structure and we didn't do much so far. And now the chicken run. We installed that in one of the last episodes. We connected it to the lighting transformer and they can move. And we have to work with the structural paste here. It is way too shiny. The chicken run must be much dirtier. I will use some more of this paste. We don't want to have a gloss on it. Let's use more of this structure paste to reduce the gloss. Now it's very dark. I apply the paint all around. Maybe I have to compensate for that with some green paint, since it is a bit too dark. So we have a lot of soil all around. We will brighten that up with some green and yellow paint. You have to try something out here, but you can see everything loses its shine. The brush is too thick. I don't want the paint over the chicken. I only want the paint between them. So I'll use a smaller brush and apply paint in the middle. You have to be careful with the white chicken. We don't want to paint that. It will look dirty otherwise. I will spread the paint a little. The paint is still very wet. This brush is way too soft. We need a bristlier one. Let me check my other brushes. This one looks perfect. Let's see. That works all right. Our task is to get rid of that new material look. We want that color to look darker. I can do that now. Everything on my system. That way everything will get a patination and more structure. This will take some time. And if you realize an area is too dark like here, just use a different color and brighten that up. Here I will mix in some yellow color and get it brighter that way. So it is up to you and what you like. Just think about how a ground structure usually looks like. It's usually very inconsistent and varying. So using this structure paste will create a more realistic touch. At first it looks like a battle dress, like an army uniform, but that's basically the idea of it. We want that to look like a natural surface. And I would say we can work with the result. That's looking very good. I guess I have to continue here on my own. I want to show you something different quickly. I will use a different color now. We have two more things planned. We want to work on that road. And for that purpose, I have this gray concrete paint here. I'll open this and now I take a bristly brush again and apply it over there. Here you can see it. I will let that dry now. I could use this to paint this forecourt here at the side. It is very dark now. I will let it dry now. And then, when it is already dry, I can brush over this house and make it look older that way. Now the house is not clean anymore. I gave it a patination and it lost its shine. So gray paint is great for that. We have to reattach the gutter. I did not do a good job gluing that. We can now matte the whole thing. We can use a different color later as well. And that way this house loses its shine. It might look different in the camera since the red color still shines through, but if you apply the paint evenly all over the house, you can let it age that way. And if you don't like the gray color, you have different options. You can also use patination powder. You could use that as well. I won't do that now, we leave that for another episode. I just wanted to demonstrate that to you since I was using the gray color. This color works also great on the tunnel portals. You can go over it with some gray paint. The brighter the gray color is, the better will be the result. That will look dusty. The middle part can be darker since the steam locomotives pass through here. And it looks very nice if you align the color of the portal side with the surrounding landscape. You create fluid transitions that way. So that's the trick. So look, if you still have some white spots, like here on the rock, use a dry gray paint and paint over there a little bit. You won't see that anymore then. Here I can create a nice stone-like touch. We can leave some white spots here. In nature, we have the sun shining on those spots, creating an ivory touch. We've done a good job painting here. I will do some more painting back there. You cannot see that area in the camera. I will finish this very quickly. Alright, now we take the next step. I will close the paint container and then I will show you something else. How much time do we have left? We still have some time for crafting. I'll put the paint aside. What I need now is glue. I need a special grass glue that you can use for gluing bushes. I will use this glue for the road and apply some glue on the road. First, I need a clean brush. This one is not really clean, but it's worth a try. Memo to myself, buy brushes until the next episode. And now we need this. That's concrete granules. It's almost like peppercorns. Just sprinkle it here. So that's a very soft powder that we have here. And this powder will be sprinkled into the glue. And then we let it dry until the next time. After that, we can paint over it with concrete paint. That way we can create a realistic looking road paint. Alright, now I simply brush on the glue on the road. I had this tunnel portal masked to prevent it from getting dirty with plaster. Let's take that off. And now I spread the grass glue all over this road. You can now spread that very generously. The brush is a little bit too small for that job. Don't worry if the white glue isn't everywhere, since we will sprinkle the dark concrete granules over it. Brush this on, spread the glue all over, and of course, the larger the brush, the faster you can work. I will use the dirtier one instead, otherwise this will take too long. The larger one works better. Let me check in the camera how this is going. I got some glue on my brown and yellow wires. We have to do something about that. That's my light current. We will need that for the street lights later on. The wiring for them must come out of the ground somewhere, and by now we cannot reach the wires anymore. That's why we have finished the electronics in the first episodes. Because if we wanted to work on that now, we would have a problem. That's why we finished that at the beginning. Until you start plastering, you can still work on that, but from then on it will be difficult. Only chance would be to cut the system open from underneath. Then you could do some wiring, but even then you can no longer get to these positions really well. So that part has to be finished beforehand. Let's have a look. Everything's looking good. So now that's a stir-duo board from Heki that I have here. We glued that on there in one of the last episodes. We apply the glue on there as well. You can use this grass glue, but you could also use a regular glue and maybe dilute it with some detergent and water. But the products of the brand manufacturers can be processed longer, so that's especially important for beginners. We let the glue set a little bit in the meanwhile. I will apply some glue down here. I will build a road there too. So let's apply some glue and then we will have that done too. I will trace the future road with the brush. So now just apply glue everywhere. It is better to use more glue than too little. That way you can add some green stuff at both sides of the road at the same time. You don't have to determine the exact dimension of your road now. A professional would have used painter's tape to mask the course, but we don't want it to be too professional. Let's use some glue. A lot helps a lot. It will take longer to get dry, but we will let that set overnight anyway. And until the next episode, the glue will be dry for sure. Okay, now a little more here and now some by the tunnel. Let me see, I placed a mirror over there so that I can see better. Okay, that's looking good. I will cut that wire open later. Just a little bit more. If we use more glue, the granules will stick better then. We will have to remove the loose remains of the granules later. If we don't use enough glue, we will sprinkle granules on top just to suck them back in afterwards. And we're almost there. All we need is just a little patience. In a moment, we will see how great the granules look. Let me close this lid first. Now we spice this up with sprinkle the granules on the street like peppercorns. I will start with this container, it's already open, and I will start sprinkling down here. Sprinkle on it over a large area. Make sure you cover everything. Under the bridge will be complicated. I guess I will take it off. That might be the easiest way. This container is empty. Let me show you here at the front. Powder it on nicely as if it were snowing ashes. We can do that generously, and wherever there is no glue now, we can simply suck it up with the vacuum cleaner later. And after that we can paint over that, and the result will be a surface just like a real road. It will look like asphalt if you look from above. It has a very fine structure. I could use longer arms right now. It has to look like a candy cake. Sprinkle all over, also here at the side. A little more at the tunnel entrance. What do you say? Does it look like a road? There's still something missing. I will move the train station aside. No, I can't, it's hooked up already. Don't worry, if you use too much, we can suck that up with the vacuum cleaner. And if the road is planned too wide, that's no problem either. We can always plant green stuff over it and use green paint to paint over it. And a little bit over there. You cannot see that in the camera, but I want to finish that now. And we want to finish our model railway soon. Let's see now if I can take that off. The tracks are already screwed. I did the right thing and screwed the tracks. Okay, so just a little bit more over there. We need some more here. We need some more there and some into the tunnel. And we do the same here under the bridge and just sprinkle it from behind. It has already become very tight, so let's do the same thing over here. Then it becomes even. I used a lot, we have to vacuum some of that, but that's okay. You should be able to see that we have created a nice asphalt road. I could do the same up here. Maybe that stretch is asphalted as well. I would say that's not asphalt but an agricultural road. But going up there, we could suggest a road here. Let's do that quickly. This is a spontaneous idea that could look good. Problem is that I have to glue over the terrain structure paste that I have applied here. That will be my road. The road is steep, but it is also intended for tractors. Maybe I have to level that, so that is not that steep. The road goes up here and over there, and then the asphalt is over. That's a rural area. A little bit too much glue, but that's okay, it will turn white when it sets. So if there is some glue where it shouldn't be, no worry. You cannot see it anymore after it's dry. Now let's sprinkle some granules over there as well. All over the glue, and now you can indicate where the road is. We have to work on the road delimitation and the greening at the side. It doesn't look perfect, but it can't do that yet. We don't have road markings, no embankment on the side, and we don't have guardrails yet. We'll do that later when we decorate the system. We want to build the good structure. Where do the roads lead? After we vacuumed it, we will use some green paint for the side. After that, we will apply grass glue again, and then we add grass fibers. And then we will use an electrostat to properly place the grass. You know the effect when your hair stands on end when you are electrically charged. That's what we will do in one of the next episodes with the grass. We will electrically charge the grass fibers. That way we can place it upright into the glue. And so it can dry out overnight. We will use that trick for all of our green areas. I will paint some more with the green and ochre paint, so that we have finished that until the next episode. And then we will see how we will continue. Take care and have fun crafting on your own. Bye bye.